ensuring equivalence of access and choice for consumers. We believe that the existing General Consumer Protection Rules and the new consumer protections under our legal framework will help to protect consumers, including consumers with disabilities. In addition, the following measures are in place and available to people with disabilities. A. An accessible complaints procedure. B. An accessible top-up facility for prepaid mobile users. C. An accessible directory of inquiries. D. Accessible billing. E. An accessible facility to test compatibility of terminal equipment or appropriate returns policy. F. A facility for disabled subscribers to register their requirements. G. The provision of a text relay service or TRS. H. Accessible information. I. The requirement for an accessibility statement. The specific measures are in place to ensure equivalent access to and choice of ECS for people with disabilities, and that people with disabilities are protected, and that the end users with disabilities don't meet obstacles in their access to and use of ECS. Service providers have largely implemented these measures, and they are now operational. Trends and developments. Chapter 3 of the Call for Inputs outlines the trends and developments since the introduction of the measures in 2014 and 2015. For Irish consumers, the following paragraph summarises the key trends that may have an impact on choice and equivalence of access for people with disabilities when accessing ECS services and also information. Comreg recently published its Mobile Consumers Experience Survey of Consumers Summer 2022. We note the following points from this survey. Smartphone ownership has increased to 86% in 2022. This is up from 80% in 2019. When asked, 8% of the survey respondents recorded that they have a disability. Of those responses, 96% say they own a mobile phone. Of that 96%, 66% said they own a smartphone. Compared to the general overall survey respondents, 86% had a smartphone. 46% said they bill pay, while most, 54%, are on prepay. %54% have said they have a landline, a fixed line phone. 55% of respondents with mobile phones have a prepay phone. Younger age groups are more likely to have a prepay phone contract. 60% of those were 24 and under. The average monthly bill is around €31.84. This is higher among the 25 to 34-year-old age group, while over 55s have the lowest average spend. The average monthly prepay spend is €20.39. The use of over-the-top or OTT services, for example, apps like FaceTime, WhatsApp, Viber, is low for all survey respondents. For example, average minutes per day using internet-based app for voice calls is around 13 minutes for people with a disability, compared to almost 22 for all survey respondents. Higher population figures and more older people have reported difficulties. In June of 2023, the Central Statistics Office, the CSO, published the results of its Census of Population 2022. This was called Census 2022. The results confirmed a total population of 5,149,139 people. In Census 2022, the two questions on long-lasting conditions and difficulties were revised. The information reported here was compiled from a range of categories in the questions relating to long-lasting conditions and difficulties and the extent to which they were experienced. The difficulties reported including those experienced due to old age. "22% of the population have at least one long-lasting condition. A total of 1,109,557 people reported experiencing at least one long-lasting condition or difficulty to any extent, accounting for 22% of the total population. Of these, 407,342 reported experiencing at least one long-lasting condition or difficult to a great extent or to a higher extent. A further 702,215 reported a long-lasting condition or difficulty to some extent or little extent. This 702,215 people accounted to 14% of the population. The proportion of people experiencing a long-lasting condition or difficulty to any extent generally increased with age. This ranged from 4% of people aged from 0 to 4 years old to 76% among those people who were aged over 85. The percentage of each age group which experienced a long-lasting condition or difficulty to a greater extent increased sharply after the age of 74. Among those aged 85 and older, just under half, 48%, experienced a long-lasting condition or difficulty to a great extent. This can be compared to Census 2016, where a total of 643,131 people reported that they had a disability in April of 2016. Accounting for the 13.5% of the population, compared with 13% of the population in 2011. This represented an increase of 47,796 people on the 2011 figure of 595,335 people. In general, there is a change in the way we live our lives. For example, we are spending increasing amounts of time online for work, shopping, banking, and socializing. The COVID-19 crisis has fundamentally changed many things, and it has led to increasing demand and use of digital technologies. Accessible hardware and software that can address the needs of users with various types of impairments is more widely available. For example, blind and visually impaired people can adjust display settings, such as font size or colour contrast. Blind or visually impaired people can use text-to-speech to access menus, receive audio feedback, and have text such as SMS read aloud. Pictorial address books containing an image of the person beside their name and phone number has considerably empowered some people with cognitive disabilities to be able to use cell phones. Deaf persons can use a range of services. These include SMS text messages, sign language via video calls on 3G networks, other video-based services such as text to avatar. Persons unable to use a keyboard can use voice recognition software. Forthcoming provisions under the European Accessibility Act are relevant to the private sector and businesses, including the electronic communications sector. As part of its review of the measures, comreg considers market and technological developments, as well as people's changing needs in relation to choosing and using ECS. Such trends and developments may impact on equivalence of choice and access to ECS for people with disabilities. We are interested in the views of stakeholders on the trends and developments set out in Chapter 3 of the Call for Inputs, and in summary above, or their impact on people with disabilities as they access and use ECS services and related information. The first two questions are as follows. Question 1A and B. Question 1A. Do you have any comments on the trends and challenges set out above? 1B. Do you have any comments on the impact of trends and developments on accessing and using ECS services and related information? Question 2. Are you aware of any market-led or technical developments that are there to help people with disabilities access and use ECS services and related information? Please give details in your answer if possible. In Chapter 4 of the Call for Inputs, we present a review of the measures. These are specific services and supports in place for people with disabilities. This review will consider the following: the effectiveness of the measures, the scope to clarify, update, or withdraw any of the measures, and the potential for introducing new measures, for example, new specific services and supports that will ensure equivalent access and choice to ECS for people with disabilities. Accessible complaints procedures measured. As a consumer, you need to know how you can raise issues that affect you with your service provider. Our Code of Practice for Complaint Handling sets out how service providers should engage with consumers. We have also specified adopting accessible complaints procedures. These procedures support the complaints and inquiry process to help make sure that people with disabilities have access and choice when it comes to consumer services and accessing the complaints procedure. This should be in line with service and procedures experienced by most people. Adopting an accessible complaints procedure makes this easier for everyone and gives you a channel for communication. Service providers have obligations when it comes to complaints procedures. For example, they must provide an accessible way for you to contact their customer services so that you can make a complaint and an inquiry. They must offer you, as a customer, the power to nominate a third party to deal with complaints and/or inquiries on your behalf if this is what you want. And they must make sure that all staff handling your complaint are trained to appropriately deal with your requirements. We ask the following questions about this measure. Question 3. Do you agree that the accessible complaints procedure measure is needed to make sure that people with disabilities have access to customer services and complaints procedures? Please provide reasons to support your answer. Question 4. In your opinion, should any changes be made to the accessible complaints procedure measure? Please tell us why you think this and tell us what changes, if any, you recommend. Accessible directory inquiries. Consumers with a visual impairment may access a directory inquiry service by phoning through the number 196. To avail of this free service, your doctor needs to give you a certificate that says you are entitled to this service. Once this is confirmed, the consumer must contact their service provider and register with them. This will allow them to use the 196 service. We ask the following questions about this measure. Question 5. Do you agree that the accessible directory inquiries, the 196 service, is needed to give people with disabilities access to a directory of subscribers or directory information services? Please give reasons for your answer. Question 6. In your opinion, are the changes that should be made to the accessible directory inquiries, the 196 service? Again, please give reasons for your answer and let us know what changes you might suggest. Accessible top-up facility for prepaid mobile users. All mobile phone users must be able to access their top-up facility so they have full use of their mobile. Since service providers providing prepaid mobile services are required to provide an SMS top-up facility. This is for customers with a disability, where a cash top-up does not involve any voice prompts. The top-up receipt allows the customer to apply the top-up by SMS or equivalent methods without the help from a third party. After topping up, confirmation of the value of the top-up credit must be sent to the customer's mobile phone so the customer knows the top-up credit has gone through without having to follow voice prompts. We ask the following questions about this measure. Question 7. Do you agree that the accessible top-up facility for prepaid mobile users is needed so people with disabilities can access their mobile services? Please give reasons for your answer. Question 8. In your opinion, are there any changes that should be made to the accessible top-up facility for prepaid mobile users? Please give reasons for your answers and let us know what changes you might suggest. Accessible billing. You may ask your service provider to give you your bill and details of your transactions in a way that is accessible to you, for example, in Braille. We have the following questions about this measure. Question number 9. Do you agree that the accessible billing measure is needed so users with disabilities can access their bills and related information? Please give reasons for your answer. Question 10. In your opinion, are there changes that should be made to the accessible billing measure? Please give reasons for your answer and let us know what changes you might suggest. Accessible facility to test compatibility of terminal equipment or offer appropriate returns policy measures. If you have a hearing aid or a cochlear implant and you wish to buy a phone or phone equipment from your service provider but are unsure if you can use it, your service provider must allow you to test the mobile phone at their shop before you purchase, or offer a returns policy that allows for a mobile phone that has not been tested before purchase of your ECS to be returned because it fails to meet specific hearing needs. To avail of this service, you need to have certification from your doctor to show you are entitled to this service. Staff in every service provider's retail shop must be trained in the use of testing equipment and to be able to answer any queries raised by customers before they buy the mobile phone. We ask the following question about this measure. Question 11. Do you agree that the facility to test compatibility of terminal equipment or to offer an appropriate returns policy measure is needed to make sure users with disabilities have access to ECS. Please give reasons for your answer. Question 12. In your opinion, are there changes that should be made to the facility to test compatibility of terminal equipment or offer an appropriate returns policy measure? Please give reasons for your answer and list any changes you suggest. Facility for customers with disabilities to register the requirements measure. Every service provider is required to maintain a facility for you to register your requirements. As a customer with a disability, if you choose to do so, the register with your consent will contain the following information: your personal details such as your name, address, contact details, including your phone or email and/or third-party nominated contact person, your preferred means of communication, your preferences regarding bundles, for example, broadband or text only, details of any special terminal equipment you need to access your ECS, and details of any alternative billing methods you need. We ask the following questions about this measure. Question 13. Do you agree that the facility for customers with disabilities to register requirements with their service provider is needed to support customers with disabilities when choosing and using ECS and when dealing with their service provider? Please give reasons for your answer. Question 14. In your opinion, should there be changes made to the facility for customers with disabilities to register with their own service providers? Please give reasons for your answer and list any changes you might suggest for this measure. Text relay service. Since 2017, every service provider with more than 100,000 subscribers, that means over 90% of landline providers, and more than 95% of mobile providers, must provide access to a text relay service. This service can be used over a range of electronic devices, including smartphones, personal computers, and tablets. The TRS translates text into voice, TTV, and voice into text, VTT, to facilitate people who are deaf or hard of hearing. It is also useful for people in the Republic of Ireland who have speaking difficulties. They can also use this to make calls, whether it's on a landline or a mobile device. We ask the following questions about this measure. Question 15. Do you agree that the text relay service measure is needed so people with disabilities can access ECS? Please give reasons for your answer. Question 16. In your opinion, should changes be made to the text relay service measure? Please give reasons for your answers and list any changes you suggest. Accessible information. Every service provider needs to give you comprehensive and up-to-date information about any of its products or services for people with a disability. This means that you should be able to click from the home page of your service or on the provider's website to go to an accessibility section. Service providers must make sure that all contractual information is made accessible to you and is also up to date. This includes notifications in relation to any changes to your contract. We ask the following question in relation to this measure. Question 17. Do you agree that the accessible information measure is needed so people with disabilities can access information in accessible format and through appropriate channels about ECS products and services? Please give reasons for your answer. Question 18. In your opinion, should changes be made to the accessible information measure? Please give reasons for your answer and list any changes you might suggest. Accessibility statement. All service providers are required to publish an accessibility statement on their websites. An accessibility statement is important for everyone, and it should show how your service provider makes information regarding its products and services accessible to you. This statement should give you information about the following: the accessibility products and services that are available to you, the range of accessible contact methods that they can give you, and their approach and policy in giving you accessible services and information. The accessibility statement must be in an accessible format and available through the appropriate channels. We ask the following questions about this measure. Question 19. Do you agree that the accessibility statement measure is needed so people with disabilities can find and access information about what services and support their provider offers? Please give reasons for your answer. Question 20. In your opinion, should changes be made to the accessibility statement measure? Please give reasons to your answer and list any changes you might suggest.